So I think if you sort of fall in love with the helping people in whatever it is that you're doing, and you can use the skills that you've been trained to help those people, you're probably going to have a career that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life in some capacity. And so that's what I think is, if you learn to just fall in love with helping people, then I think that is a ticket for a successful career, a successful life. And I really mean this, like, there's probably no better example of that than my dad.
Yeah.
Like, it really is true.
What a great thing to hear from your kids. This is a really extraordinary opportunity. First of all, thank you. This is Scotty Kirkpatrick. I got to get your name right now. Christy Schmutz and Rich Kirkpatrick, their dad. These two are physicians in Longview. Rich has been a physician here for a long time and has held down the fort at Kirkpatrick Family Clinic. And so we're going to have a conversation today that I'm really excited about, because I want to talk about legacy. I want to try to paint a little bit of a picture of what it's like for you, Rich, to grow up in a household with your dad as a doctor, and then see how that compares with you guys and what you grew up with, and then talk a little bit about where you'd like to see the clinic go in the future, because there's lots of changes going on, and I think people would be really interested to know the backstory of what's going on at the Kirkpatrick Family Clinic. So maybe we could start with you, Rich. When you came to town as a physician, your dad was a physician here, your uncle was a physician here.
Yep.
How did you feel about what you were walking into?
Well, I never intended to come back home. At my 10-year high school reunion, I remember Vincent Barber and I talking, and we both said we're never going to come back here. Well, Vincent's still here, and I came back. When I came here with two of my friends from the Mayo Clinic, we were looking to start an internal medicine group out here somewhere, and we looked up and down Western Oregon and Western Washington. We didn't even consider Longview. And then after we looked at all these other places, it just seemed to me that Longview was a better place to live, closer to Portland than Albany, let's say, closer to Seattle than Albany, where my first wife wanted to be all the time. And so at that point, my dad and uncle said, well, you can have a cubicle in our office. And, oh, by the way, you can be on call this weekend. So I admitted 26 patients to the hospital in one weekend. And
Welcome to Longview.
Yeah. I felt
Welcome to medicine in Longview.
I felt overwhelmed, and I realized I was going to get paid more for doing that than I would have doing 5 or 6. And so they were very gracious in helping me get going, and I appreciated the heritage that they had, their reputation for excellence and care of patients. But my idea was not to have, just a small dad and Uncle Wendell and me, and they honored that. They helped me to expand next door into the apartment building, and John Richards joined me there. And then Dr. Thorson came and he invited himself to join us, and he did. And then we got Dr. Zalinga and Dr. G and Dr. Gorton and Dr. Nash, and pretty soon we had 10, and Dr. Pulliam and McBride.
Peterson.
And then P.J. Peterson. And so we had like 10 physicians, and there's a whole different concept than a family deal. It was an internal medicine clinic with subspecialists. So
you were in the apartment building?
John and I were in the Heritage Apartments 101 and 102 for a while.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then we built the building at 14th and Delaware, and then we built a building here, the Pizza Hut, that's now occupied by Core Health. So it was the dream was to have an internal medicine clinic, not so much join with my family. But in 1996, things kind of disintegrated, and so I went back in with my dad and Uncle Wendell.
Yeah.
And then they kind of one at a time retired.
So what was it like growing up with a dad who was a physician in Longview?
Well, I remember as a little child having my brand new doctor bag and stethoscope to play with. And I just remember Dad was always studying at night. and doing insurance forms at night. And, I in high school, I got to, instead of playing football, I got to work in the office and develop x-rays and box up samples of pills.
Yeah.
So I guess I was just around it for a long time. And my brother, John, who's an internal medicine doctor too, we were kind of just expected to become doctors. So that meant toys and going to the office with Dad or going to the hospital with Dad.
Yeah,
It was
I remember.
just expected.
I remember you taking your kids on rounds with you.
Well, yeah, that was
A lot.
Yeah,
I remember that
the same-
also.
I don't know if it was babysitting or.
In retrospect, I'm like, was that legal?
But it was
Whatever.
just kind of, I think it's just kind of a cultural expectation. My sisters were expected to become teachers like my mom, and they did. So I guess we did what Dad told us to do.
Yeah. Was it in the form of pressure? Did you feel like if you didn't become a physician, you were going to let your dad down?
No, it was just kind of like an automatic thing. This is what you're going to do. And I actually almost went astray in college. I got interested in politics. And, but fortunately for me, my interest in politics was erased after being elected student body president at University of Washington and learning how politics really works. The underhanded this and that, and the glad handing, and they stab you in the back. And
Now, are we talking about college or are we talking about Longview City Council?
no, college.
I'm just kidding.
City council was different than that.
Yeah. So how does that compare with you guys and what you grew up with? Did you feel some of those same things?
You first.
I don't think I'm stepping out of bounds by saying Dad made it no secret that he would like for both of us to be physicians.
We were told we could be any kind of doctor we wanted. I remember those exact words.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know that he ever straight said it, but, it's not just Dad. I mean, we have a lot of doctors in our family.
Yeah.
There's my older brother's a doctor. Dad has Uncle John that's a doctor. We have cousins and there's all sorts of people who are doctors. So we just knew a lot of people that we liked, that we enjoyed, who also happened to be doctors. And so I think anybody if your family's like that and everybody's teachers, like you take a second and third and fourth look at being a teacher. But for us, it was doctors. And so I think obviously we knew what Dad wanted, but I think we knew so many people as well that the daunting task of like getting really good grades in high school and then college and then applying to med school and then doing med school and then residency and then fellowship, that was just normal. And I think I feel very fortunate to have been in a family where I knew that other people that I knew that seemed like regular people just like me had gone through and become doctors. And
Yeah.
I was very fortunate when times got tough, or you're not sure what you want to do, I know plenty of people that have done this and I can do it too.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not only do you want to be a doctor? Okay, I think I might want to be a doctor, but I think everybody probably has this moment of, well, can I do it? And I think I was very fortunate that whenever I was thinking along those lines, I knew plenty of people that could and did do it, and so I figured, why couldn't I do the same?
I think that's a
Yeah.
big difference too, for an advantage that you had. You saw the success that happened in other people's lives. Chrissy, are there any other girls in the family? I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, there are girls, but I'm the only one who's a
besides
doctor.
wives, and
Yeah, I have a sister, Mary.
you have a sister, Mary.
Yep. She is a boss in business, but she honestly, by osmosis, probably could be a doctor.
Yeah.
She has enough medical knowledge. Yeah, but I'm the only Kirkpatrick female.
Did you
doctor.
feel any additional pressure?
I think I kind of liked being the only girl who would do it, but I want to reiterate what Scotty said. I think Dad especially did a really good job of like there was never any question that we could be doctors. When I look back on it, it's like some people might be like you said, like, oh, can I do this? This is really hard. And their parents are like, you're going to have to study a lot. And Dad, it was like, oh, of course you can do that. So like the thought of, can I even do this? Never even entered my mind.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh yeah, I can. So
Do you get called into medicine? I mean, one, none of my kids are in ministry. None of my kids are pastors. They grew up around it. I don't know if it's because they saw things they didn't like necessarily about it, but they all operate under the assumption that if you're going to be a pastor, then you need to be called into ministry. Maybe an invitation. Did you ever feel invited into medicine?
I feel like my story is like a little bit complicated. Like I really did not want to be a doctor growing up. Dad was very encouraging, but I really was like, I wanted to get married young and have a family and work part-time. And then when I was in college, that didn't happen. And so I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I started working with Dad in the summers in his clinic, and I started seeing what he actually does. And that was inspiring to me, and that made me think, oh yeah, this could be cool. But I think I got passionate about medicine when I started doing it. So I would say like I was really interested in the science, but I didn't feel like I had a call to take care of patients. But when I started knowing how to in residency was when I felt more called to it, when I realized that all the knowledge that I had and the work that I'd put in could make a real difference for somebody, even as much as like, in the hospital, getting the order in for pain medicine and getting someone's pain under control, like that made a huge difference for a person.
Yeah.
And I think that started to make me feel more passionate about it. So, but I don't think that I felt called. It was sort of like, I think I sort of like haphazardly
tripped and fell into
it. And it's just been the right thing for me.
So are you two like, how much age difference?
2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like, it seems like you're each other's biggest cheerleader at this point. You're really for each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be pretty cool for you, Rich, to watch your kids not only grow up and become something that you really had a heart for them to do, but also do it together.
It's amazing, really. Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the fruit of that they're working together?
Oh, their kids will all become doctors. It's obvious.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think that the other thing, Jeff, that was so crucial is that both of their spouses are Longview people and wanted to live here. I have 4 older children that don't live here. Dave was here for 9 years till his wife dragged him over to Bend. But
never escaped from there.
Yeah, that's right. Jim and Ron and Mary all live in Seattle. And Jim is a cardiology professor, and Ron is an insurance
mastermind
owner, and then Mary is a corporate executive with Brooks Running Shoes. So, but they're not here, and I miss them being around, and we get together. It's a good time. But again, their spouses weren't here, and their jobs took them elsewhere. So
yeah. Scotty, how does your wife feel about what you're doing right now? Does she feel like she's back home?
Yeah, I mean,
or does she feel like she's on a special assignment back home?
No. I mean, we feel very fortunate that through medical training, we were able to live in a lot of really cool places, Seattle, Denver, Tucson, but always she and I both knew we wanted to come back to Longview. Our families are both here. We like the small town, simple life. Our friends, we're very fortunate that our friend group, for whatever reason, a lot of them married other people who are from Longview and have remained here. So there was always like, hey, I want to go back to Longview and I want to raise a family there. We both had great times growing up, and we want to be able to do the same things for our kids. And so I feel very fortunate that my wife loves Longview just as much as me.
Yeah. So. What's the dynamic like at the office right now?
It's
between the three of you?
There.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I think it's really fun. The thing I love is like, we work together because medicine it's not like you graduate from medical school or you finish residency and you know everything.
Yeah.
It's like you know how much you don't know. So when I have a tough case, if it's something cardiac, I can just walk down the hall and show Scotty this EKG and be like, hey, what do you think about this? what do you think I should do? Should you see this patient? Or if it's another, especially like a complex, because as doctors, you're not just dealing with medicine, you're dealing with people and their lives. So if it's a complex social situation, my dad is so experienced with people and medicine that I feel very, it's just fun to bounce over to his side of the office and ask him a question. So
not only does he know the medical part of it, but he knows everybody's first name
and their middle names and their social security numbers.
I've seen all their warts too.
Yeah. So I think that's really fun. And at the same time, we're all like, we all practice differently. We're all trained differently. And so we're kind of, feeling out the differences of how we do things and how to collaborate.
Well, that's kind of what you created in the clinic, isn't it, Rich? A real diversity of medical backgrounds, I guess.
Well, I think, Jeff, one of the lessons of life I learned very quickly in 1977 when John Richards came in with me, that I really thought the only way of doing anything was the Mayo Clinic way. And here was John, who trained at OHSU, and doggone, he was getting the same results with totally different medicines. And so I realized on an experiential way that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so I think going through the years, that's served me well in terms of being flexible, and even realizing that sometimes the patient's ideas are more accurate than mine,
Yeah.
So you just, that experience there with John just taught me that there's lots of different ways to do things and that we shouldn't get hung up on just one and be happy for the patient getting better. I mean, if doctors historically have been kind of negative about chiropractors, well, I've seen so many people who got much better from a chiropractor than they did from me.
Yeah.
That I respect.
You want to say that again a little louder because they're going to love you.
So I think you have people who've had different backgrounds, different ways of doing things, different knowledge bases. There's too much in medicine for anyone to know everything. Yeah. And then there's the dietitians and the chiropractors and the psychologists. Everybody's got knowledge and information and all that can really help patients. The only thing is it's so important that their priorities are patient first, And so when I'm looking for someone to refer to, I'm looking for someone who really cares about patients and has the knowledge or experience, not just knowledge and experience alone.
Yeah, yeah. You're still doing this. You don't have to. You could retire.
Oh, I don't think I could retire, actually.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, you don't seem like that's even a consideration.
No.
Why?
I really like what I'm doing. I feel like every day I get a chance to help somebody who nobody else will help, or can help. And also, I have this sort of feeling. I don't know if it's nature or nurture, but I feel like on weekends I waste a lot of time. I don't feel like I'm wasting time on weekdays when I'm working.
Yeah.
But I could watch hours of analysis of NFL quarterbacks. I mean, what's the value of that? There's no value to that.
Yeah.
Or I like to find new musical arrangements for clarinet groups. I have a clarinet group I work with. These things have really no value to society or anyone else, but they're things that I do on weekends. So I just feel like it would be more productive. I'd feel better about myself if I were working more.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's different when you got children and grandchildren around. Then part of your life purpose is to share with them or spend time with them or give mom and dad a break, that kind of thing.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotty, what is it that you learned from your dad about people?
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. I think what I've learned from my dad about people is that I think what you just heard is my dad, who is I won't say your age on here, but he 60. Could retire. Yeah, he's 60 years old.
He could have retired for a while now.
He could have retired for a while, and he chooses to wake up every day. And I don't think it's actually because he likes the medicine that much. Oh, yeah, he likes the medicine. He loves people.
Yeah.
And it's So I think if you sort of fall in love with the helping people in whatever it is that you're doing, and you can use the skills that you've been trained to help those people, you're probably going to have a career that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life in some capacity. And so that's what I think is, if you learn to just fall in love with helping people, then I think that is a ticket for a successful career, a successful life. And I really mean this, like, there's probably no better example of that than my dad.
Yeah.
Like, it really is true.
What a great thing to hear from your kids. Yay!
I'll pay him later.
He is my boss.
Yeah, he is your boss. Well, it's interesting because so much of what you have to give just comes naturally. But I don't know if there's anything that's really natural, because everything is kind of built into us as we're growing up.
Sure.
And so much of what's coming out now is a result of the time I remember your dad was the same way. I mean, he was at the hospital until he was really up there in age. And it wasn't because, I don't think, it didn't seem like he was there because the world needed him. It was because he chose to be there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We made him retire at 88.
Reluctantly.
He wasn't very happy about that.
Is that like when you try to get your parents to take your driver's license away? No, you can't drive anymore, Dad. Yeah. It's crazy how that all changes. Christy, what fruit did you get from your dad? What's the lesson you learned from your dad most about valuing people that sticks with you now?
I feel like there's a lot. There are many. I think the thing I'm thinking of is that there's no one that is I say unattractive enough in like not a physical way, but like
complex.
People are complex.
They're messy.
Yes. And
Very messy.
There's no person that's too messy for us to love. I think that's what Dad has taught me. Like,
that's so cool.
They may not be able to pay much money. They may not be able to control their emotions or their words. They may take a ton of your time, put you way behind, make you feel crazy. May have physical characteristics that you don't find attractive, but none of that makes them beyond lovable.
Right.
And I think on a deep level, that is like one of the most Christ-like characteristics I've ever seen.
Whole thing.
In anyone, and Dad it's not like he's self-righteous about it. He just does it because it's right, So I feel like I could talk a lot about the things that you've taught me, but
that's
about
cool.
loving people.
Let's not make them too uncomfortable. Okay. So let's move to the future. We've just come out of COVID. It just took a lot out of the medical community. It took a lot out of my wife's a nurse, and I saw how much it took out of her on a day-to-day basis. It's taken a lot out of the church. We've had to reorganize things and reconfigure things so that we can make them work because of the changes that have happened. I think one of the things we hear in the spiritual community is it just pointed out where our weaknesses were and made them really evident during COVID. And so we've had to change things to make them stronger. Where do you see... Oh, gee, this is such a huge question. But where do you see medicine going in the next 5 years that you think you have a clear picture of what needs to happen? Or maybe somewhat of a clear picture of what needs to happen in the next 5 years to make medicine work really well?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, that again, like, not to just keep praising my dad, but the patient has to stay first. I think there's so much... Yeah. The medicine gets big, and there's so much, big buildings and big money and big advertising and programs, and the patient can get lost in all of that. And I think the thing that is going to make that will keep us successful and will keep any place successful is if you keep the patient at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, that's the thing that if that gets lost or gets shoved down, what are we doing? Yeah.
What about you, Scotty?
Yeah, I guess I would piggyback on that. I totally agree with what Christy said. And I think, I think a lot of medicine now is plugging the patient into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And this gets complex because I don't know how, it works with reimbursement and health insurance, but just if we were to strip that away and just say, what should healthcare look like? I think it really starts with the patient working with someone to establish what their real goals are. And how long do you want to live? What do you want to be able to do for as long as possible? What are the things you can't imagine not doing? What are the things that you are able to do only right now in this chapter of life? And how can we not only maximize that chapter of your life, but maybe allow you to do those things within that chapter for as long as possible? And then when we really help the patient take a deep dive in what they want out of life, then I think we have so much knowledge from a prevention standpoint and treatment standpoint that we can really sort of get ahead of the curve on providing that personalized care, because we've identified sort of that patient's North Star of what's really important to you, where do you want to go, and then everything is viewed through that context, because that's why we are doctors, is to help people live better lives.
Yeah.
And I think if we take a more patient-centered approach to really thinking about that, not only I think will people have better outcomes, but each sort of chapter, if you will, of their life, they will look back as really have knocked it out of the park and has been as successful as they possibly could. And I think that's when healthcare can become magical, because you help people live the lives that they want to live.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And everybody's more aware than ever, for a lot of reasons, of where the weaknesses are in people's lives. Mm-hmm. It seems like the weaknesses are pointed out all the time. Rich, besides the obvious energy level that these two have, what do you think that they're going to be able to accomplish that is going to be difficult, that not that you can't accomplish, but what is more difficult for you, and they're set up for it right now? What can they change in medicine? How can they impact medicine in a way that is like, I had my run at the being the powerhouse, and now it's your turn. What do you think that they can do?
I'm not ready to back down yet.
No, I'm not thinking you should back down, but AI is around the bend.
Yeah, I think that I think there's a trend towards things like, when you go down to Fred Meyer's, there used to be 10 or 11 checkers. Now there's 2 checkers and 9 stations, computerized
self-service, yeah.
And I think that sort of thinking is a real threat to our cultural existence as a community. I mean, not just Longview, but everywhere. Because, as one of my high school friends said, if the minimum wage goes above $15 an hour, it's cheaper to have a machine do anything. So anytime you have a situation where people are getting more than $15 an hour, they could be replaced by a machine if the decisions are all about making as much money as possible.
Right.
So when you get in a culture where there's mergers and acquisitions bigger and bigger and bigger, people at the top are making, like the guy who got shot in New York, making $10.5 million a year. Nobody's worth $10.5 million a year. And especially when their calling is to limit healthcare in order to to eliminate unnecessary healthcare so they can make more personal money. I can see why why that happened. But I think going forward, we just have to have, all of us have to be putting the patient first, and being willing to listen to patients. And then you have to have a healthcare environment that fosters that. If you have a tightly run medical clinic, there's a limit of how much time you can spend with a patient, and how many, for example, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I've got this open sore on my foot and it smells awful. Well, make an appointment for my next available appointment's in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's what tends to happen in a highly business-minded healthcare system. And meanwhile, the patient gets worse and, maybe even lose their foot. So I think we have to do everything we can to maintain a situation where patients come first, where we list, we have time and almost an assignment to listen to patients. I think Scotty and Christie are extremely good at that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if we can, and I think most doctors want to practice like that, but they're not allowed to by the corporation.
Right. And that's very frustrating for them.
Yeah. And I think that's why you see so many doctors retiring early, because they're just frustrated. They know they can help the patient. Their employer won't let them.
Yeah. Well, good thing you're the CEO then, because you're going to let these guys run with. And like,
absolutely,
this stuff is baked into you guys. This whole idea of people are first, and so that doesn't necessarily preclude you from doing things that haven't been done yet.
Right.
I think that you have the freedom to go there, right? You have the freedom to experiment and innovate.
Not just freedom, but encouragement.
Yeah. Because you were an innovator, Rich, in a lot of ways. I mean, some of the things that you did, I worked for you.
I remember that.
So I kind of know how creative you can be at solving problems.
Yeah.
Let's try this. Well, let's try this. Do you guys feel that same freedom to innovate?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not the same skill, but.
Well, just, Jeff, let me tell you one thing. I have had, even now I get job offers from around the country. I could go to Texas and make 5 times as much money as I make here. I'm not interested. Yeah. I would much rather, and the same, I know that Scotty and Christie are getting paid a lot less than they would if they stayed in Seattle or in a big system.
Yeah.
But I think we all feel that having the control of what we do, the opportunity. I mean, if I wanted that lady that came the other day who was very difficult, I could spend an hour with her if that's what she needed. If I did that in a big institution, I would be canceled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why would I be canceled? For setting a bad example. A bad example of spending a lot of time with a patient who is not a profit center.
Yeah. Not only that, but the data proves that you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. The data.
Yeah, the data.
So, I mean, to me, the future for our situation rests in Scotty and Christie and hopefully others who we kind of run out of other Kirkpatricks for the moment.
That was the last one.
No, there's more coming.
Yeah, that's true. Kate is 2. So.
That's right.
If we can have a situation where our patients get what they need and want, and in addition to good results, they get respect, put it that way. I think that kind of model eventually is going to catch on. We're doing okay. We're not a major system. We're staying afloat, and I think people value the opportunity to have more self-control of other situations.
That's a good point.
And I think that eventually that's going to catch on. I'm an anti-establishment sort of person by nature, and I think that incoming government in Washington, D.C. is going to be very anti-establishment. And hopefully you'll see a situation where there's less regulation, less taxing, less regulation, more freedom, more encouragement to do new things, to get better and so forth. And I think that will probably greatly affect our culture. The other thing about Scotty and Christie, they both love Longview. They had a great time growing up here. They want that for their kids. They want to make that happen for other peoples. So involvement in making the Longview area a better place to live is crucial to us all too.
Mm-hmm. Well, something else that's happening too is that there's this conversation going on about how the quality of our life based upon the food that we eat, the way that we treat our bodies, the way that we take care of ourselves, that just didn't seem to be as actionable and accessible as it was 20 years ago. That's going to open the door for some things for you that may have not have been available for your dad earlier on. I mean, you really have leverage now when it comes to lifestyle. What do you think are some things that you could do to really enhance people's lives that you may not see being done all the time everywhere?
A lot. I mean, I think that's why I feel so fortunate. I don't know, fast forward 5 years, I don't know if it's all going to work out, but I at least know that I have the opportunity to work as a doctor, but work on helping people get healthy, because true health is achieved by more than just showing up to the doctor.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we should be doing on our time outside of the doctor's office. And I think a lot of corporations or systems say, well, it's, that's outside our walls. It's not really, we're not going to focus on that. But I want to help people get better outcomes.
Yeah.
And so by, finding a nutrition plan that works for you, is huge. Finding an exercise routine for both strength training and cardio is massive. And there's no one right way, and taking time to help patients figure out what's the strategy that works for them, that's sustainable. That is not only, I think, the key to getting better health outcomes for people, but that's the key to just helping everybody live a better life. And the key for us being able to wake up every day and feel the same way as my dad of, let's go do this again today, even though we hopefully at one point will not always have to.
Well, even the way you talk about it, Scott, is different. I mean, like, I remember the conversation with patients used to be diet and exercise is really important.
Yeah.
What you just talked about was taking it a whole nother level. And I think that there's an open door right now to do things differently, to go in deeper with people. Do you think you're going to be challenged by the time that you have to spend with people in the office? Because that's always a challenge.
Yeah. I would say my dad is very gracious he should be. Yes. He wants us to be able to practice the way we want to practice.
Yeah.
And so one of the beauties of having our own clinic is that we can, at the drop of a hat, say, hey, I want my appointments to be this long instead of this long. And then we find other ways to build revenue if we need to, So I would say, like, absolutely the time is, we have to take the time to do that. It's not a 1-minute conversation. It's not a 5-minute conversation. It's multiple 20 to 30-minute conversations. Yes.
But I was just going to chip in that. That's why I think that is so true. But also, like, we want to try to extend ourselves outside of the walls. Like, there's also is a reality of, like, the way the system is currently, I can't spend 2 hours with every patient. I would love to, and I promise you I could. But that's where it's so, doing things like this and realizing, like, we can help so many people by leveraging technology, by working with other people who want to help get Longview connected. There are things that, because we are, independent, we can try to leverage technology and relationships to, help people outside the walls of our clinic so we can have that 2-hour-long conversation.'re talking earlier about off air about long form interviews. Like, we can take 2 hours to really educate somebody, but because of technology, we can do that, and unlimited amount of people can get helped by that. So
the other side of that, though, Scotty, is that you're here now instead of seeing patients.
That's true.
So it's like,
I know the boss is breathing down my neck.
There's a cost of doing things differently, right?
There is, but I do think I really do believe that people are looking for something. They're looking for a healthcare where it's obvious that they are put first.
Yeah.
And I think if you really truly do that, and we are not doing that if we're not trying to connect through our patients through social media. That's the way the world is. And so I think if they recognize, look, we are not working right now so that we can come and try to help educate people on our own dollar because we want them to have a better health outcome. I think people will, they will respect that, and you'll be rewarded for that in the long term because of loyalty. Because patients want to be with people that really want the best for them.
Congratulations,
so, Jeff. One thing that I've heard so often is the concept of, I want to make as much money as I can so I can retire early.
Yeah,
and I think that's a losing attitude. I mean, when time is up, it's not going to matter how much money you have in the bank.
Yeah.
You want to look back on your life and figure, I had a life of helping people to have a better life themselves. I personally, it's important to me to encourage young people to go into health careers.
Yeah.
For example, there's no money in that. There's no financial reward in encouraging a student to do something. And you're in the same boat. There's no money in persuading people to go into ministry.
No.
but you're not doing it for money. The culture has gotten too focused on money and not enough on community and service and, doing what's right.
How important is legacy to you?
Well, I'm not thinking I'm near the end.
No, you don't have to.
No, but I
be at the end to have legacy be active in your life, and it seems like it's sitting across the table.
I think that every day you want to make a difference for people, and if someone is an awful person, I look at them and I wonder why this person. I don't think, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this person. I think, well, I wonder what happened to her, or what happened to him to make this result. So. You just try to help everybody and figure that God's involved in your life and God's bringing challenges. I mean, I take care of all these people with chronic pain. I never intended to do that. I was trained to not do that, but there they are. No one else will help them. So I'm doing that all the time, and it's very frustrating and demanding, but I figure like that's the hand that comes to me, and my job or calling, whatever you want to call it, my role is to try to help these people who are so desperate.
Well, for what it's worth, I don't think that legacy is something that you look back at your memorial service, at your legacy. I want to enjoy legacy now. Like I want to see who my kids are now. I want to see how my life is impacting my family now. And you can look at these two and think, not bad.
They had a great mom. That's all the difference.
Also true.
That's all the difference.
That is true. Are you aware that you're in the midst of a legacy being shaped and formed?
I think there's I've had a few moments where I think like we're going to look back on this time and be like, whoa, that was wild and really cool. And it'll, who knows where we'll be in 10, 20 years. But I think I've always felt like our family's healthcare legacy is something really special. It started with Grandpa and Uncle Wendell, and I've always felt really honored to be a part of that and really proud of that, I think. So it's crazy to feel like we're kind of in another phase of that developing and cool.
You mentioned earlier that you had always wanted to be a mom. Mm-hmm. Is that still there in you?
Yeah, definitely.
How does that work with?
That's a great question.
Your CEO across the
he'll be understanding. He'll definitely be understanding. I think it'll be harder for me to.
Well, Jeff, we're coping with that by setting up a telemed visit opportunity. So when the kid's napping, she can be seeing patients on the screen.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't want to miss a boat.
Yeah, that's definitely there, and I think it's like now learning. I'm even learning now coming out of residency where time was so like my job was so demanding, and now I have more time and learning to shift out of being this like kind of production machine in residency to like
not production for you, production for the institution.
Well, transitioning into getting ready to have a family, it's a challenge. It is, but my husband, as you know, is very supportive and wonderful, and we'll figure it out. That's what we always say. We'll figure it out.
Scotty, you could be a cardiologist anywhere, and that's a pretty privileged position to be in. You worked really hard for it, but it's still an honor to be a cardiologist. What's cardiology like in the Longview-Kelso area? What are the needs here?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been here 6 months, so I'm still trying to kind of assess the lay of the land and see what needs to. But my big passion is prevention, and I think the medicine within cardiology is awesome, but cardiology is the number one reason in the world why people die, and we know there's some things like rare cancers that people get that we have no idea why people get, and they die, and it's really sad. But we know how to prevent heart disease, and I feel very passionate about doing everything I can to prevent people from having heart attacks and heart failure and strokes and all these things that I saw so many people die from that could have been avoided. And that's not only sad for that person who lost their life, that's sad for all of their family and friends. Their life was negatively impacted because that person died prematurely. And I feel very strongly that we know how to prevent that. And so that's what I think is just taking prevention to another level.
Is there a key to making prevention work, make it successful that you've seen?
Like implementing it from a doctor perspective? Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I would say I think the key is to let people know that heart disease is starting from the time we're born.
Yeah.
And that's literally, like, I'm not just saying that, that's literally true. Like, we form atherosclerotic plaques in our arteries, very, very early in life when we are kids or teenagers. And therefore, why are we waiting till we're in our mid-50s to start taking prevention seriously?
Mm-hmm.
That should be taken very seriously now, whatever age you are, whether you're 20 or 30 or whatever, you should be taking this very seriously right now. And I can't promise anything, but I promise that the odds get shifted in your favor more and more the earlier that you start. And so I think the big paradigm shift that is coming. And I think there's a lot of inertia that makes that hard to overcome. But I really think the data and the studies that have been replicated over and over show us that we know what to do and we just need to do it sooner.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the biggest thing that especially a community like Longview needs, is recognizing that there's a lot we can do, but the key is to get started now.
Don't you think, Rich, that the medical what is it called?
I know what you're
medical
gonna say.
complex is
Exactly.
built on the whole idea that we only treat people when they start having symptoms. Or you only get paid
Exactly.
for
That's-
treating
yeah.
symptoms.
See, if everything were cash-based, it would be totally different. But when it's insurance-based, then insurance is going to pick and choose what's covered, and that determines what the care is. And then on the other side, you have institutional forces wanting more money. So, it's $2,000 for this or $5,000 for that. So there's a huge amount of money involved. And it's all kind of negotiated out between the insurance companies and the providers. So along comes Scotty, whose interest is not in doing angiograms for a couple $1,000 or getting people heart surgery, whatever, but it's an emphasis in trying to prevent that. So all the excitement about cardiology is that, I had a 6 stents put in, or I had a Watchman procedure, pacemaker, whatever. That's all the excitement in cardiology. But that's all pretty much preventable if you get to somebody early on.
Yeah.
See, but there's not been a lot of interest in funding that. Historically, insurance companies have not paid for preventive stuff because they felt they would just be preventing expenses for the new insurance after the patient changes insurances. Right. So now, however, the cost of hospitalization is so high that drugs and treatments are being approved just because they reduce the rate of hospitalization.
Right.
I mean, it may be...
Which was stepped in the wrong direction.
Well, yeah, but it's all about saving money.
Yeah.
Not saving lives or preserving quality. It's almost worse if somebody has a disabling stroke than if they die of a stroke.
Yeah.
Or a disabling heart attack. They become a burden forever on their family. So I'm really excited that Scotty's dedicating his efforts to preventing all this carnage.
Well, I think the key, don't you think, is that this thing that your dad gave you about putting people first creates a paradigm that allows you to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to work in this position. But I also do want to be very clear. There are tons of doctors out there in Longview too that are just like me, that don't work for Kirkpatrick Family Care, that are great doctors, that are awesome, that care about patients. The problem is not doctors. The doctors are incredible people. They're brilliant. They've dedicated their lives to this. Like, we have so many great doctors that are here in town and that I've met across the world. The problem is more sort of on the health insurance and the institutional, system. So I want to make sure it doesn't sound like we're bashing other doctors. No. I'm this prevention guy and let me tell you how great I am and everyone else is the problem. No, there's so many incredible doctors that are fighting and dedicating their lives to helping people. I just feel really fortunate that I also happen to be in a system that is small, like that has built, that allows me to really try to think outside the box and be creative with the sole purpose of getting better patient outcomes, and then we'll kind of see if it can, financially make sense second.
It does seem like the ecosystem that you're in right now gives you the freedom to do things differently if you want. Anything you want to do differently? As far as how you reach your patients and how you improve their lifestyle?
I think I feel like for so long, and I tell this to patients all the time, for so long, doctors have done a really good job of just saying, like you said earlier, just diet and exercise, go do it. I want to change in the way of I want to give people like actionable information, and I also want to meet them where they're at, because the way to prevent heart attacks and strokes, or to get people to lose weight or get their diabetes better, is not by just saying go do it, I release you.
Yeah.
It's by understanding their lives and hearing what challenges prohibit them from making choices that may impact their health positively, and then trying to help them understand how to make a little positive change at a time. So I think I'm much more about like, I look at this as like, I'm in this for the long haul with this patient, and we're not going to get from point A to point B just like that. We have to get into the nitty gritty of your life and see how we can meet each other and make small changes. And that's honestly very hard because you have to ask those pressing questions. You have to say, how was exercise this month? Oh, it wasn't very good. Oh, really? What happened? Oh, my daughter's going through this really hard thing, and blah, 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 and it's been really hard on me emotionally. And, oh, okay, yeah, that's really hard. Maybe we need to treat your depression first. And then, okay, now we're back on the horse with the exercise.
That's so good, Christie.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you have to meet people where they are. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And every month or every 3 months, you're just going to be back where you were. So that I think is the approach to change. It's just more challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all this is really exciting. I have to admit, I really have enjoyed the increased conversation about lifestyle this last couple of years. I don't know if it's just coming out of COVID and people feel like they need to make drastic changes, or if it's just because social media has opened us up to be more conversational about things that we used to kind of keep a little bit under the covers. Now we're talking about things more. The whole conversation that I was telling you about earlier, where we're trying to create a bridge between the spiritual community and the mental health community, is one that's had a definite division in the past, and we're trying to build a bridge between those two. Are there some bridges that you would love to see built between the medical community and other communities in the city?
Yes.
One I could see is the college. We have a college in town.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's so many. Yeah, yes. With the college, I think one of the best things that our community, that the city of Longview does, is Lower Columbia College producing nurses. We're so fortunate to have so many nurses that are incredible people that are not only doing wonderful things to help people, but also they live here and they're out in the community doing things outside of work, helping people. So I think there's that. But then I'd love to partner with the college and partner with, local gyms about how can we get every single person to work with me or Christie, to then, team up with these people that are exercise physiologists or personal trainers or nutritionists, so that every single person has sort of their game plan for, giving themselves the best chance of the best health outcomes so that they can live the life that they want to live. And I think through leveraging partnerships with the college, or we've been teaming up lately with local gyms to try to help people get discounted gym memberships. There's a lot of things that, because we're in a community like Longview, that I think is just sort of starving for community and working together, and everybody kind of banding together and helping each other reach our goals, that I think we can leverage that, and I'm excited to try to do that for everyone, because it matters. It really matters in the end.
Rich, that's always been important to you. I mean, you're heavily involved in the community, especially community sports and public events, and even politics in the community. What advantage do you see in getting outside the four walls of the clinic as far as how the medical community could impact the community at large?
That's a really interesting question. I think I'd like to say right up front, I think the Longview area, Longview, Kelso, whatever, the area, this is a small town, a union town mentality here. People care about each other. A lot of people go to church. It's just, there's more of a community spirit here. I mean, it's just literally unbelievable to me how many people are at the Christmas parade.
In the pouring rain.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Yeah. Same with 4th of July. You don't see that sort of thing happen in a big city. There's more of a separation and smaller, it's like people of, substantial means in a big city. They're just not community minded like down here. So I think there's great opportunities to make good things happen here that don't necessarily involve a lot of money or a lot of corporate sponsorship. So I think Scotty's and Christie's involvement in trying to get the fitness community involved or expanded to include everybody is a great idea.
Yeah.
A wonderful opportunity. And, every gym member, I've been a member of several different gyms over the years, and everybody wants to have more members, but how do you make that happen? So if the doctors as a whole are saying, you know what, you should be in a gym. It's not enough to walk around the lake. You need to be lifting weights, working on your balance and strength so that you're less likely to fall and break a hip.
Yeah.
And be, 50% of people with a hip fracture never get back to normal. So I think there's opportunities, of that sort of thing. In Rochester, Minnesota, there was a big involvement between the cardiology community and the restaurants,
That's
to
a great
limit
idea.
Salt.
Yeah.
We all know that salt and fat are what make food taste good. But, I was there one time a few years ago where they actually were meeting with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Restaurant Association, and the push was to take salt shakers off the tables, And so I think there's opportunities for the doctors, the health advocates or experts, to get involved in all sorts of these things to build better health.
Yeah. Well, we probably should wrap this up so you can see patients. Is there anything that Scotty and Christie, is there anything you want to say to your dad?
Oops.
You've said you've been very kind and very generous with him, but is there anything in specific or in particular you want to say to your dad while we have the chance here to do it all together?
How do you say, I don't know, how do you say thank you to your dad who's inspired you for the last 30 years of your life to do what you do? I think the way we do that is by living in a way that carries his legacy forward, and that shows that we honor him and appreciate him and understand the sacrifices that he's made. So hard to say thank you for all that you've done for us, but
yeah.
Let's say tolerate my idiosyncrasies.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo what Christy said. I would say thank you as well. I think maybe people do have an idea, but I think most people don't know what you go through on a everyday basis. And as we alluded to earlier, you choose to do this.
Yeah.
And, you could be on a beach in Maui doing something and, but you wake up every single day and work on the clinic from your computer and then go to the clinic and see patients all day and come home late at night. And then you're back working on the clinic on your computer, and you have dedicated your life to making the people of Longview healthier. And I think we are all very thankful for you. But also, you've worked really hard to try to preserve something for Christy and I. Yeah. And life would have been a lot easier if you would have not tried to do that. You've put yourself through a lot just to give us the chance. We don't even know if this is going to work. As we talked about earlier, the system is not set up for something like this to work. And so I'm very grateful to you that even knowing that you dedicated every single day, long hours to try to just give us the chance, just the opportunity to be able to continue to provide medical care how we see fit for our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say well done, Rich. We've known each other a long time.
Yes,
And
it has.
I have,
Remember running the lake and sharing our frustrations.
or beating each other up on the basketball court.
Yeah. Jeff had to play low post.
Yeah, I remember a couple weeks ago when you and Susie were taking a walk through town. I'm like, where are you guys going? And you said you were going down to see the new mural they put on the Rinker building. Is that it?
Rickles building, yeah.
Rickles building, yeah. And I just thought, this guy never stops thinking about what's going on around him.
That is so accurate.
Always thinking about what's
There's
going on
incredible
around him.
opportunities to help the community and other people. I just try not to be, so many people are focused on retiring or on their retirement account or their vacation home, that kind of stuff. That's all fine and good, but there's such great opportunities to make a difference in every day in town here. And that's,
But the reason why you know there's great opportunities is honestly because you pay attention. You pay attention to what's going on around you. A lot of people go through their day and they don't really notice who it is that they're around all the time and what's going on around them. And that's the one thing I think you've done really well over the years is you've paid attention to what's going on in your own community. So great work, all of you. Thank you. I can't wait to see what happens next, where all this goes. And I'm really glad that you two have decided to stay in Longview. This is a huge benefit for our community.
Thanks for
So
having
thank
us,
you.
Jeff.
Thank you so
really
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah.